guess what time it is? It's cookie season. I'm Ella here, your favorite Girl Scout, and we have your oldies but goodies. Lemonades, dimmits, peanut butter sandwiches, and more. This year we have a new cookie flavor called the Explore Mug. My goal is 200 boxes, so please make that happen. You're gonna buy cookies anyway, so why not buy them from me?
What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for January 19th, 2026. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Monday edition of the podcast. Happy MLK Day to everyone out there. And if you're going out doing some acts of services and everything, dress warm because it's cold out there. All right. Let's rewind the weekend like we do every Monday, brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. They have you covered for all of your Philly sports apparel needs. All right, so not a great weekend. Not the best weekend at all. The NFL games, they were good games, but quite honestly, the four teams that are left, I don't like any of them. I don't like any of them, so we'll see how it goes. Here's hoping for some good Super Bowl block pools, I guess. But there is some news out of the Eagles. They started interviewing some guys for offensive coordinator position. Zach Robinson, former offensive coordinator for the Falcons. Mike Kafka, which is an interesting choice. You have the Andy Reid tie, young guy looking to prove his worth. Does have experience calling plays, which I think is important for whoever they decide. Brian Dable apparently was interviewed. Kevin Stefanski will not be one of the candidates as he actually took the head coaching job in Atlanta. No word on Mike McDaniel or anyone else, but we'll see. I mean, they're doing what they didn't do last time and actually interviewing people, so that's a step in the right direction. Don't forget to check out Brotherly Birds Breakdown with Kyle and I. Kind of break down the season, look ahead to what needs are. We talk a little offensive coordinator and then some free agents as well. So go check that out wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. The other big news was Michael Clay is coming back as special teams coach. He did interview with a team or two, but did come back and will stay, which I like. Definitely needs to coach some of these guys for some situational awareness on certain things, but I do like it. But the NFL games, like I said, other than the Seattle game, which is just terrible, I was sitting there watching that game saying that's what the Eagles should have done to the 49ers. They should have boat raced them like the Seahawks did. But like I said, just frustrating. And, of course, Josh Allen playing the way he did. And again, this is where I always say, when everybody says we're from Philly, people don't like us, we don't care. Not true. We totally care because so many people on my timeline, so many people in my text groups that I'm in had very similar things to say. And honestly, if that was Jalen Hurts, and the only reason I'm even bringing this up is because Josh Allen a lot of times is the standard that a lot of people will compare Jalen Hurts to. If Jalen Hurts played half that bad, he would be getting skewered both locally and nationally. But everybody else is like, oh, they let Josh down. They were blaming the refs. Like, no, be consistent. And I mean, and it's okay to for both things to be true. He could be a great quarterback. He didn't play. I mean, he made some plays, but he also contributed to that loss. So just throwing out there, the biggest lie we tell ourselves is people don't like us and we don't care. We all care. But that's really it from the Eagles. Hopefully, the the guys they want they're able to interview and then can make a decision based on that. But we will keep you updated as we hear anything on the offensive coordinator search. And then the Flyers, 6 straight losses, a game that basically the Rangers said they're not really punting on the season, but essentially I believe the story was they sent something to their season ticket holders saying this is a retool. And the Flyers still couldn't beat them. 6 straight loss, losing 6-3 the other night. And now it doesn't get any easier as they fly out. They're in Vegas tonight. This could get ugly very, very quickly for the Flyers. Combination of injuries, just not being able to score on the power play. Even Sean Couturier said, we sucked. So hopefully a little bit of a road trip here can turn it around for the Flyers. Sixers in action tonight down at the X versus the Pacers. Jarrett McCain got sent back down to the Bluecoats due to just not being able to consistently fit into the rotation yet. We'll see how that continues to play. I think this is the second time now he's been sent down there. I'm not ready to give up on him yet. It's just needing to figure out where he fits in, and I do think coming off the injury and the fact that the Nick Nurse is still trying to figure out the rotations plays a role in that. All right, to the Phillies. Not a great weekend for them as well. Had a deal in place with Bo Bichette, and then through a cacophony of ridiculousness, the Mets swooped in and stole him for less years but more money, kind of just as a reactionary move to the Kyle Tucker signing with the Dodgers. I don't know. And there has to be more to this story that we'll probably never find out. But to me, Phillies gave Bo Bichette what he was asking for. So whether or not this was his plan the whole time, I don't know. And then they followed it up with re-signing JT Realmuto to a 3-year deal, which is just insanity. But I don't know. I don't think a lot of this is going to matter because next year, almost certain there's going to be a very, very long work stoppage, whether it's a strike or a walkout or a lockout. But enjoy baseball this summer, and the Phillies are running it back. So why not just re-sign Rhys Hoskins and run back the 2022 team at this point? But and of course, it stings even more because it was the stinking Mets. All right, so what happened this weekend in Philly sports history? Well, on January 17th, back in 1973, Bobby Clark was named the captain of the Flyers, the youngest captain ever named in NHL history. That has since been broken by Connor McDavid, who was 19. Bobby Clark, to his credit, was 23 when he was named Flyers captain. And then on January 18th, a pair of not-so-fun memories for the Eagles in NFC Championships. First, in 2004, they lost to the Panthers 14-3 at the Link, only after Donovan took a cheap shot, but they still lost that game. And then in 2008, they lose to the Cardinals 32-25. This time, Donovan gave the defense the lead, and they couldn't hold it. And I think that's one of the things everybody always is like, oh, Donovan didn't play well in that game. Yeah, he did. He gave the defense the lead after they coughed up a big lead to the Cardinals. He battled the Eagles back, and then they just fell short at the end. And then in 2016, Eagles hired Doug Peterson as head coach, which would pay off in dividends 1 year later as they would win the Super Bowl. But that is Rewind the Weekend, brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com, check out their wide selection of Philly sports-based apparel, and use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. Not a good weekend. Not a whole lot. We're in that in-between time right now where the Eagles, and throughout their history, start winding down. We're getting into more hockey and basketball. So that's what happened this weekend in Philly sports history. And then going back to Friday's trivia question, we talked about Wilt scoring 42 points in the All-Star game. 4 players have scored more than that since then. they would be Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, Anthony Davis, and Karl Anthony Towns. Thank you to everybody who reached out with that. Quick housekeeping, be sure to follow me on all social media platforms at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Continue to spread the word as we grow this thing. We're proud members of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network. And now that things are starting to get into a groove here in the new year, hopefully going to be able to make some minor tweaks for the better. And then, of course, check out the Brotherly Birds breakdown. This past episode, doing a little bit of post-mortem on the Eagles season. Kyle and I will be taking a brief rest here for a couple weeks, and we'll be back the week of the Super Bowl. And then from there, we'll likely do every few weeks, we'll update on everything that's happening. But stay tuned for that. Best way to stay in the loop is subscribe to the YouTube channel. Whether you're coaching Little League, crushing your fantasy league, or just rolling up to a bachelor party like a Philly legend, Lotwin Custom Hype Chains bring the energy. Fully customizable, totally unforgettable, and guaranteed to turn you into the MVP of the moment. Great for teams, groomsmen, or anyone who wants to show off with some serious swagger. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD, and get 10% off your own custom hype chain. Lotwin, let's get hyped together. All right, January 19th. First, we're going to go back to 1993, and the Phillies sign a player that would be a very instrumental part of that 1993 pennant team. Jim Eisenreich signed with the Phillies on this day, hit .318, drove in had 17 doubles as the right fielder for that 93 Phillies team. And then in 2002, Donovan had his homecoming in Chicago, first time playing there as the starting quarterback in the divisional playoff game, and he did not disappoint, throwing for 262 yards, 2 touchdowns, also ran one in. The one he threw to Cecil Martin right before the half made it 13-7 Eagles. He would throw a pick six to make it 14-13, but then it was all Eagles as they rolled to a 33-19 win. Donovan to Deuce Staley with a ridiculous catch. The defense forced 4 turnovers. Hugh Douglas knocked out starting quarterback Jim Miller after one of his interceptions as the Eagles advanced to their first of 4 straight NFC Championship games in Donovan McNabb's Chicago homecoming, in which he played pretty darn well in this game. 1 year later, in 2003, it was another NFC Championship game, but not as fun of a day as that divisional round the year before. It was the last game at the Vet. No matter win or lose, it was always going to be the last day at the Vet, for at least for football anyway. Got off to a great start. Brian Mitchell returned the opening kickoff down to the 20. Next play, Deuce Staley runs it in, and I mean, the Vet almost collapsed that day. That place was rocking. It was shaking. I'll never forget, somehow I ended up 4 rows behind me and never stood out in the aisle, so I have no idea whether I got carried, floated, or whatever. But Eagles were down 17-10 at the halftime. And then all of a sudden, between Joe Jurevicius running all over the place, not being able to get anything going on offense, and then, of course, Rondé Barber sealed it with a pick six, forever ending the narrative that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers cannot win when the temperature is 40 degrees or lower. Eagles lose it 27-10. And I'll never forget, it was the most quiet walkout after an NFC Championship game ever. You would have thought that people would be ripping out seats and whatnot. At least from where I was, from the 700 level, section 746, it was a quiet walk down that ramp out to the car that day. Never saw anything like it. Donovan did not play his best. 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles, and an interception. As Tampa Bay would go to the Super Bowl, would beat the Raiders, which I still say that 2002 Eagles team, of all of them, probably was the most complete top to bottom, especially on defense, but wasn't meant to be. Eagles, Buccaneers closed down the Vet for football on this day. Eagles losing 27-10 in the NFC Championship game. And we don't have to go far for this last one. Last year, 2025, it was the Snow Bowl playoff edition. The huge snowstorm in the area for the Eagles-Rams divisional playoff game. Jalen opened it with a 44-yard touchdown run. It was a close game, back and forth. Saquon with touchdown runs of 62 and 78. But Jalen Carter sealed it with a huge sack to help propel the Eagles to the NFC Championship game. Jalen ended the day with 70 rushing yards and a touchdown. Saquon went over 200 yards, running for 205, those 2 touchdowns. Defense forced 2 turnovers and had 5 sacks that really made the difference in this game. They would move on. After a little bit of things happened, the Eagles would be playing the NFC Championship game at home when Washington upset Detroit. But on this day, the Eagles beat the Rams to go to the NFC Championship game at home against Washington. And then finally, we're going to turn the page, the moments that completely changed Philly sports history forever. And this one is one of my favorite ones. It's a fun one to talk about, and that is the day that the Curse of Billy Penn officially died. And it was back in 2007. Ironworkers got the idea that it would make sense to put William Penn back on top of the city and have them, excuse me, they put a little bronze statue of William Penn back on top, and that really almost immediately started everything around. If you remember, the Curse of Billy Penn started when One Liberty Place was built. There was always a gentleman's agreement that no building would be higher than William Penn on City Hall. But obviously, as things progress and things get more modern, it's hard to do those things. So ever since then, the Philly teams just were bad. You can say it was irrational. You can say it's a myth. You can say it's superstition. You can blame it on the teams or whatever. I think it's a combination of everything. Nobody's going to tell me that William Penn was not haunting our sports teams. But once he returned to the top of the city, it was almost immediate. The Phillies got hot, chased down the Mets, and won the division, would win the championship the following year. And our Philly teams, at least the big two, the Phillies and Eagles, have been relatively solid since then. We've had, since William Penn went back on top, Villanova actually has won a couple national championships. The Eagles have won 2 Super Bowls, which you would have thought hell needed to freeze over for that. But no, it was just the Curse of Billy Penn. So breaking that curse, kudos to those ironworkers for their forward thinking and bringing us 2 Super Bowls and a World Series championship since 2007. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. On this day in 2025, Eagles beat the Rams 28-22 in the NFC Divisional Playoff game in a snowstorm. Saquon Barkley, 2 long touchdown runs, ran for 205 yards on the day as the Eagles moved to the NFC Championship game. Eagles-Buccaneers closed down the vet for football. Tampa Bay beating the Eagles 27-10 in the NFC Championship game. That does lead to today's trivia question, though. What was the Eagles' all-time playoff record at the vet? Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. Get that anything else Philly sports related off your chest. We can still vent and commiserate about the Eagles if you want. But what was the Eagles' playoff record at the vet? 2002. Donovan goes back to Chicago and puts the Eagles in their first of 4 straight NFC Championship games, beating the Bears 33-19. Had himself a game. And then, of course, Jim Eisenreich signed with the Phillies on this day in 1993. We will have more on the Sixers and Flyers, who are both in action tonight. Flyers out in Vegas, Sixers down in South Philly. Hopefully this week will be better. It's been a rough few weeks here for Philly sports, so let's get it going. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for January 19th, 2026. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Monday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.